Now
we're all live.
Yeah.
What, that was blinking down there.
it's probably, battery's probably low.
Oh.
All right, I'll call this. That's okay. If she comes in, we have a quorum now, so we're good. I'll call this February meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of our January minutes.
I can hear you.
Oh, please. LOL.
There we go.
Okay. First thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from January, so I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I've reviewed them and I move to.
Those are approved. Next item on the agenda is Mayor Treat. He's going to present his strategic plan for 2025 and 2026.
All right, well, I'm not gonna take up a whole lot of time tonight, but I just wanna thank you for giving me a little bit of time. I met with all the committees and commissions, walking through this. Before I get into this, though, I did want to thank you guys, specifically, this thing that you're doing is so new and different. I really am excited about what you're doing, and I appreciate you trying to figure it out. When you're doing something new and different, it takes some time. You're writing the book on how do we engage the community, and across as far as I can tell, in the circles I run in, other mayors, and this is the piece that seems to be the toughest right now. With all the ways we're communicating, we're still not communicating. So, thank you for what you're doing, and anything obviously we can do. You know, part of what we did with Jordan's position, making her communications coordinator, was to make sure this got the focus it needs. That if we're not communicating with people about what we're doing, if they're not in the loop and they're not engaged, then I just don't think we're doing our job well. It's their city, right? So anyway, thank you guys so much. So I started after I was elected, I spent about a month or two with Scott Staples, who is a retired city manager, decorated city manager, retired to Bryant, grew up in Little Rock. I kind of asked him to spend some time with me and kind of mentor me in the world of running a city. And first thing he says, well, let's just start listening. Let's just go on a listening tour. And we got a whole lot of information, okay? A whole lot of information. We met with a lot of people. And, but I just kind of kept doing that. I took that list of what we had, and I kept listening to see if there's things that we kind of keep coming to the top, right? What are the priorities? And then Jordan and I worked on this, I don't know how many drafts, just trying to get it right. And the best way I can explain this to you, as far as my kind of an illustration, which is going to age me, right? You know, some of you, might not get this. I don't know, maybe. But I remember, you're a young guy too. I'm not saying the rest of you are old, but you might remember this experience. But I remember when I was old enough that my parents would let me go to church with my friends. Like there was an age when there was no way. No, but then I got to where I could behave enough in church. I got to go with my buddies, and I was the first time I realized that not everybody had the same hymnal we did. I thought everybody had the same hymnal. I got the hymnal in my church. I'm going with my buddy. He got a whole different hymnal, a whole different song. And so I think that for me, it's just the illustration is trying to get us all to sing out of the same hymnal. That's what this is about. If we can, at the very least, come together coalesce around some priorities for the next 2 years, because that's all that this group of elected officials we have, right? Hopefully people will give us some more. But what we're trying to do is say we're going to work on these things in the next 2 years and do as much as we can. And so we broke this down into 4 different pillars, just categories. The first is vision. Where are we going? And there's, you know, the one of the things that really has stuck in my mind, I had breakfast or lunch with Paul Halley, former mayor, and I was asking him all kinds of questions. And one question I asked him, I said, now, what'd y'all do with your cash reserves? What was your policy on that? And he said, Chris, we didn't have any cash reserves. He said, Walmart had just opened, you know, we just didn't have the sales tax we have now. And the reason I tell you that is it keeps coming back in my mind. This isn't always going to be the same town that we're leading now, right? It's going to continue to change. And where we are now, he couldn't envision having $20 million in cash reserves. It's not a world he would have, but that's where we are. And the city council and the staff done a great job getting us there. As far as visions, pillar one, I want to introduce a cash reserve policy to begin to give us some purpose behind those cash reserves. Right now, we kind of operate at this. We want to stay above 120 days. I think right now we're over 180 days, which is really good and smart. But I just want to be able to give those cash reserves a purpose. This year, we're just going to track it, okay? You'll see it if you pull up the city council agenda. You'll see these 5 buckets in red. All that means is we're tracking it. There's no official policy, and that way we can look at it at the end of this year. We all sit around and go, you know what? We like that, okay? Emergency fund, that if something terrible happens, we have access to funds right away. If we can get to a contingency fund, it's for if we get a sales tax dip, right? If we go through some hard times financially as a city, 90 days of payroll. And one of the things that we talk about, our sales tax has grown pretty consistently 4%, right? For last, as far as back as I can track it. What we try to do is not, we try to be real conservative on our estimates, right? So this year we got a 2.5% growth is what we estimate. But we always underspend because we have a vacancy rate. The majority of our budget goes to payroll. So because we under predict our income, right, and we spend less, we're always carrying a little reserve over. So that's what's been happening for years and years. And I think, I can't remember what year it was, 14 or 15. It was when they changed the law that city governments get point of sales tax. That was a game changer for cities like Bryant, where when you order on Amazon or you order from, DoorDash, we get the sales tax. Before all that, we had a lot of leakage outside the city on shopping. So that was a game changer. I think our sales tax grew like 15% that year. Crazy. But it's still growing at 4% on top of that. If something terrible happens and our sales tax goes to zero, we got bigger problems, right? It's the apocalypse. But at the very least, we can pay our people for 90 days. If it goes to zero, we can keep the city running as far as payroll for 90 days. The capital one is real important to me. What we want to do with that fund is it's going to take us all year to do this. We want to identify everything in our city that needs to be, we know we're going to have to replace, or that someday we want to improve upon, like, let's say, a new city hall, or something like that. The illustration I like to use is the pool pack, close to your heart. As Parks Director, we knew that thing had a lifespan, and we're replacing it this year. So what I'm hoping we can do is put a little money aside every year so that 15, 18 years from now, when that thing needs to be replaced again, we've got the money sitting there, if we want to. The other thing that this allows us to do to identify all our capital assets, a replacement schedule, is it allows us to leverage our borrowing power. That basically what we can do as a city, once we identify all those things, we can say, okay, we're going to pay for the pool pack with savings, and we're going to pay for the new city hall. We're going to borrow money on, in 3 years, we'll be able to borrow this much money to redo city hall. We'll have a long-term plan for all of our capital assets, whether that's we'll pay for cash or we're gonna borrow money for it, okay? So that's gonna be big for us. We've never been in a position to get ahead. We're always reacting. This is this fell apart, which that's always gonna happen, but things that we know, when we know the lifespan of a lot of these things, we wanna have a plan for that. Start either setting aside money for it or plan to borrow the money for it. A grant reserve, in the past, we would approve a grant and then it would come back around 3 years later. Hey, remember we got this grant? We owe the money for it now. We're all, oh, shoot, we didn't. So now what we're going to do is we're going to earmark that money. And so that money's there. And then if we apply for a grant, it's earmarked, we don't get it, well, that money continues to grow that pot. We can double, triple that money. And then debt, we want to have a year's principal and interest on our debt that just makes us look better with the banks. When we go borrow money, they see we're in great shape financially, we get a lower interest rate. So that's a big one that we're just going to track this year. You'll hear more about it, but this year you'll see it in the budget. Second, the comprehensive growth and land use plan. Richard McEwen says it well. Let's make sure Bryant, the growth happens not just to Bryant, but for Bryant. You guys know the challenges, which are good challenges of growth. I'd much rather have the challenges we have than cities that can't get people to move there. Especially in our ETJ, which is 1 mile outside our city limits, which is county. We have jurisdiction over that in planning. But what is happening is areas that aren't in our city, but are in our school district. Okay, they're getting bought up. They're going to be developed. I want to have a plan for annexing those areas. 1, so we get the sales tax, but 2, so we have more quality control when in our city limits, they got to come through our code, right? That's going to be better for us in the long run. So this will include a plan for that 1 mile radius. It'll include a plan for annexation over the next 5 years, what we want to annex. Right now, there are areas outside our city limits that we already serve with police and fire and sewer, and those will kind of be a priority. But that's going to take some time to kind of get that plan together. That'll be something we lean on you guys. We're going to need a lot of input from people. One of the biggest questions that we're going to face and we're going to talk about is high density. We're going to need more high density housing in our city. We don't have enough housing. So how do we do that? Where do we do that? What does that look like, right? For a while, apartments was a bad word in the city. People don't want apartments, and there's a lot of talk around that. But I want to be able to have a conversation in our planning, but people can weigh in on that. Okay, we're going to have it somewhere. People have a right to fair housing. Where does it need to be? What does it need to look like? Those sort of things. One of the things I'm hearing, I get a lot of calls from young people that want to live in Bryant but can't afford to buy a house or rent a house. They're living on these nice apartments on Bowman. And they're going, man, they work in Bryant, or they want to be part of Bryant. So some of those questions we're going to jump into that plan. We'll need your help getting out there, getting people's input. 3, water, wastewater infrastructure. So we've already approved our water master plan, and you'll be hearing more about that. We're talking to the school district about a piece of property for the new water tower that's going to help the south side of town, on the south side of interstate, that low plain that has some water pressure problems. We're trying to fix that. The big plan that'll be out and soon is the wastewater. That's the beast, right? Our water infrastructure is pretty contained because you've got different water districts around us. So it's that wastewater that grows, and that's the one that caps our growth too, right? When your sewer is at capacity, no more growth. We're in good shape, but we've got that wastewater master plan coming out. So sometime in the next 3 to 6 months, there's gonna be a lot of conversations about that plan. There's three phrases I want you to remember and be able to articulate. Act 605 is state law. They have taken the power away from the mayor and the city council on water rates, okay? We're required by law to do these studies and then make sure our water rates match what our infrastructure needs are. Because around the state, stay in office, mayors and city councils have left the water rates low and infrastructure's falling apart. So they just took it and said, nope, you're gonna have to do these studies and make sure you have so Act 605 is important for people to understand, because water sewer rates are gonna go up, okay? So that's part of why. It's state law. The South Plain Water Tower, like I just mentioned, is gonna be our near improvement. It's gonna happen in the next few years. And the other thing we're gonna spend a lot of money on is Lift Station 5, which is it's in a lot of need. It's over there off of about over by Alcoa 40, back over there. But that lift station is crucial because all the water, wastewater comes from the north side of town. That lifts it up and it gets it over to our sewer treatment plant, okay? It's in big need of help. At some point, we'll get to expanding our wastewater treatment plant, but first will be Lift Station 5. So you're going to be hearing a lot of those three things, right? Act 605, South Plain Water Tower, Lift Station 5. And the reason for that is my goal is that when those rates go up, everybody knows why. That this money are going to these projects. And these projects are crucial for the future of Bryant, Arkansas. We're in really good shape in our water and wastewater infrastructure. And that's because people have made good decisions, and we want to keep doing that. And just in, I wish, if I could, I really would love for people to see that when they pay that bill as an investment in Bryant's future. I know it's frustrating. I pay it too. But if we don't have water and we can't flush our toilet, we're done, right? I mean, it's so essential. If there is not a wastewater infrastructure, it doesn't matter if there's streets, it doesn't matter if there's parks, it doesn't matter if there's police, we are done. We are shut down. We'll work hard on that. All right, second pillar, leadership, transparency, and trust. These are some of the things we've already started. We started last year. Just a reminder, Mayor's Memorandum, please encourage people to sign up for that. That's a monthly snapshot. You're going to get a snapshot of everything going on in the city. It's written to City Council, but kind of an insider's look. If a person wants to know what's happening in the city of Bryant, take 10 minutes to read that. You're going to know. Council wrap-up videos, hope you get those in your email. 4 or 5 minutes, you're going to see every decision that council's made, and then if you want to go and be a council nerd and watch the whole thing, you can do that. Each department's going to do educational videos this year. Our goal is to, I don't know, you remember Bryant 101, you probably went to that. We're hoping to have enough, a library of videos on the YouTube page that anybody that wants to learn about every department, that they'll live there, and hopefully they'll be evergreen enough that anybody can at any time kind of go through Bryant 101 online. That's that's what we're looking for. And then obviously surveys. We've been real pleased with the surveys this year. We want to keep doing those. Those seem to be something that's simple and easy, and you guys have done a great job helping us figure out how to get to people. I think this was our most successful year. So we just want to make sure people are in the loop and at least know where to go find information. All right, third, problem solving. Addressing what can't wait. So I'm going to be asking tomorrow night, I'll have on the agenda asking council to form a subcommittee that has 4 council members on it and 3, residents at large. And they're gonna look into, well, basically, what they're gonna do is they're gonna vet our funding plans for these 3 areas, okay? We've been working on these plans, but they need to be vetted publicly. Everybody needs to see them and hear debate about them. First, stormwater utility. Our stormwater utility department has got to become a standalone department. Right now, it's severely underfunded. We have a master drainage plan that's almost done. We spent a lot of money on. I've seen a couple drafts of it. It's going to be a heavy lift for the city of Bryant. We've got a plan we've got a way to fund that plan, but it's not going to be an easy decision to make because you guys know stormwater utility, streets, everybody knows we need more money for them. But when it gets dicey is how, whose money, right? So stormwater utility, we basically impervious surface fee, right? The more impervious surface you have, the more you're going to pay to get our stormwater utility on its feet. But that's going to affect schools, big businesses, and churches. That's tough, right? So that's going to have to be a conversation. It's going to have any conversations happens publicly. That's what this committee is going to do, and they're going to recommend to council based on what we've seen and heard. We think you should do this. Okay, street funding. I've got a plan for that, but I'm not going to say anything because that's going. I said stormwater utility first because that's the first thing they're going to take on. Street funding will be at the end of the year. I don't want to steal any thunder on that one, and it might be kind of controversial. And then third, police and fire pension. We've got our police and firefighters are skilled, and we've got a lot of veterans. I'm not going to call them old, but they're going to be rotating off, and that's something our budget we got to prepare for. Okay, we can't just wait for that to happen and not be prepared for that transition. So they'll take on stormwater first, and then police and fire pension, and then street funding. I expect the committee to last a year and maybe more, depending on, we can extend it depending on how far they get in those things. All right, economic development for building tomorrow. You've heard, right, about the BAM, build the BAM. It is not a sales tax increase. It is a half-cent tax that voters passed to build Bishop Park, and then they reissued it to build the Parkway, 2 fire stations, and a bunch of parks improvements. So what we've seen is if you bring the right plan to the people of Bryant, they'll say, yes, you can keep having that half-cent. This is a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and the city. If the people pass this, the Chamber of Commerce will be responsible for running this facility, finding the vendors, the promoters, and that's in the works. It'll be a facility that can be used by the community, rented by anybody, and from what we can tell, unique in Arkansas, and especially in this Nashville to Dallas, right? These entertainers that are big time going from Nashville to Dallas will stop in Bryant and make some money in a small venue like this. But then you've also got all the up-and-comers that I don't know their names, but all the kids I met with over at Student Senate know a bunch of their names. I pulled up the one in St. Louis, and I was going through some of the artists I never heard of, and they're like, yeah, no, I'd love for him to be in Bryant, or her to be in Bryant. So that'll be coming up in May. Council agreed to put that before the people. I think, one of the things I just want you to know that we're working really closely with the Chamber of Commerce, that they are, they're part of our economic development arm. The other one is Sling County Economic Development Commission. We're part of that. what they do is they're gonna help us more on that state level. When a business or industry comes to the state, they're gonna be talking to them and saying, hey, come down, I want you to meet the mayor, I want you to show you this piece of property. It makes sure we're on the radar economically as far as the state goes. And it makes sure that we're working closely with the other cities in the county. I believe we're a regional economy, and we've got to think like a regional economy. And that was one of the things that when I was Parks Director, we were always talking to Benton Parks about what they were doing, because we wanted to complement it. We didn't want to do the same thing. We want to complement what they're doing. People are looking to come to a region. They're looking at the amenities of the entire county, not just us, right? So this allows us to continue to work real closely with the other entities in the county to make sure we're on track and we're on the radar. And then finally, really excited about Bless Bryant, which is a partnership between Family Life Ministries and the school district. And however you guys want to be part of that, you're definitely part of that city piece. We did it, remember we did a small test run of this last year where we're wanting this to go citywide. We had a good meeting this morning. We're going to have a vision luncheon sometime in April. And the school, so there used to be a thing called MIAC, Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, and it went away, I think, during COVID. Mm-hmm. And we had talked about bringing it back, but then we got Truly Bates, who worked for me at Parks, is now a teacher over there. She's in charge of Student Senate. She reached out to me and said, hey, I'm looking for connections for service projects. And I'm like, hey, why bring MIAC back? Here's Student Senate. So that I go and meet with them once a month. They're going to be helping bring volunteers to this. So the idea is obviously, how do we serve together? Those conversations, that community that's built when we're serving together is really how relationships are built. And I like to use my dad. I loved him. He's a great basketball coach, but he didn't like to visit over a cup of coffee. Now, when we were hanging sheetrock, I learned a lot. And it's crazy how that happened. When we were out working together, those bonds, and especially the Student Senate jumping in now, we're hoping that this just continues. What's already great about Bryant is our culture of we over me of service, and really pass that on to the next generation, that we really are better when we serve together. We all got differences, and we're going to be able to work through those, especially when we know each other and working together. So anyway, I know it's quick. Sorry, guys. I'm going to be asking City Council to endorse this tomorrow night as our strategic plan for the next couple of years. Again, this was a lot of conversations, a lot of input, definite labor of love. No, that's a lot of info. But you have any questions? Anything you see there?
I got one on the wastewater. We talked about expanding it. What's your plan for expanding it? Like, what's a little bit more detail on how to expand it?
So, Lift Station 5, right, that's the first piece. Expand the capacity of that lift station. But our wastewater treatment plant, there's room out there to expand what we have out there, to be able to take more gallons. You have to forgive me, I don't know
No, that's good. That's
millions of gallons. But the first one is Lift Station 5.
Okay.
Get that fixed and get its capacity up, and then we look at our treatment plant. And that's going to be a long process. Lift Station 5 will be the first thing we take on.
And the reason I ask is because you want us to be familiar with those three things. You know, those are the type of questions people are going to ask.
Yeah.
Well, what's the plan?
Yeah.
You know, you guys telling us about this.
Especially my neighbors.
What's the next step?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Especially if they've had issues or something like that.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to want to know what's the next step, how we're going to get there. Like you said earlier, who's paying for it, where the money comes from, you know, those type of things. So just that one.
You know, that $15 fee, $15, infrastructure fee that everybody pays. I think that's earmarked for the water tower, which is be huge for the south junior high and the elementary school, and everything south of the interstate is lower, south of the interstate, south of the railroad tracks is lower. I don't know how much of that $15 fee will pay for Lift Station 5, but those are the kind of questions that we need to know the answer to. Some of it is going to be a rate increase.
Then the other question that I had is on the committee, you said they'd probably be out like 1 year, and you talked about the schools, the churches, and what's the other entity you said?
Just big, like Walmart. Big parking lot,
Business.
you're going to pay more.
Got it.
That's kind of how, as we've looked at the master plan and the millions of dollars it's going to take to get things right, that's the only way you can fairly say, well, you've got more impervious surface, you're causing more of the drainage, so you're going to get this.
You're going to get bigger, you're going to get more to build.
Yeah.
Has there been any talk about, parking garage rather than open flat?
No, that's not I don't think that's anywhere in our code, or planning.
I think a good thing we can do, like, well, not necessarily be us, but anybody, as far as like, you talk high density housing, like I know people want to get away from like the apartments. I would say look at those, but when you look at those, like my wife is a community manager, she's an area regional manager. She does that. She manages some of these big properties that you see, especially like the one on Bowman and stuff like that. So, I would say the more high-end complexes and things like that, those are the ones you'll be looking to get into. Anything that, well, I talked to you.
Okay, yeah, no.
And that's, because I have the same thing, like, who's actually doing this planning? Because like over there by me, they're putting in that little subdivision. If you look at their little drawings, like those houses only have like 5-10 feet in between each house. So it's the Rouse Coleman development. That's the worst thing that we could do. So who is it who actually approved that development instead of giving them like a 45-foot yard instead of a 20-foot yard? So it's a bigger property because it's going to be a higher end house.
Well, okay, so that's a really great question. The Planning Commission will be doing most of the approving, and then council of the comprehensive growth plan. I think we have to be very careful about saying there's only one kind of house or one size yard, because people deserve a right to have fair housing, right? And like this happened out at Midland Estates, which is a Rouse Coleman development. Those houses starting price is $275, $300.
I get that.
So
for the market of today.
right, but you can't. It's illegal for the city of Bryant to say that you can. We're only going to have this type of home and this size yard. You've got to have. That's why this plan is going to be so important. Is we've got to have entry-level housing. We just have to make good decisions about where they go and how it all fits. The challenge right now is a lot of what's being developed is right outside our city limits in that ETJ, which we're getting better at working with the county. What I would prefer, and what we're trying to do, is let's say Randy is a developer and he's looking at that 70 acres right outside the city limits. Hey, Randy, he's connected to the city, let us annex you before you develop it. And let's sit down and let's talk about how that fits with the larger plan. The county is also going to be working closely with starting to really plan out. The city can't say, we can't zone the ETJ. We can't say it's got to be commercial, it's got to be this. But that come through us and then go back to county. It's kind of a back and forth. So I get what you're saying, but we can't just say this is all that we're going to allow in the city. And so, and I know you're not. So like a developer comes in and buys that property and it fits our code, they have the legal right to build that thing there.
100%, but that's the thing, can't we redo our code so that we have a minimal of space in between, you know, certain properties, so that you're not stacked on top of one another? Or, you know, since even with apartment complexes, do a code to where we are bringing the higher end apartment complexes, and it's just not just some guy who's gonna build.
If you do apartment complexes, can you say, we're gonna do this apartment complex?
You've got some leeway, but you can't purposely, in your code, discriminate.
We're right, yeah.
It's a fair house, and you don't wanna get into that.
That's the deal. Because people wanna live here, they want their kids to go to school here, so you've gotta do it right. And that's why it's gonna take time and a lot of conversations. And I think the failure to plan is kind of what we're trying to, not to do, right? Say, look, we're gonna have these areas in our city, more dense neighborhoods, but they're gonna be here and here. We're gonna have high-end apartments, they're gonna be here.
Well, you know, Jill, she tried to restore some different parts of the city and areas to kind of bring them back to life a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think somewhere, instead of just building new homes and, you know, apartments up, we need to look at revitalizing some of the old parts
Mhm.
of Bryant. You
I
know,
agree 100%. And that brings up a good point. So the Heart of Bryant Code, what we found has been in place for 10 years now, is there's some really good things about it. You know, like these duplexes, right? A lot of that.
Yeah, I like them.
Really nice. Some of it is so particular and stringent, I guess that's the right word, that it's held back development. So we want to tweak it. We want to, like there's a developer who's done a lot of great stuff down here. He's got a piece of property over here behind Artemis Cuts and that.
Mhm.
And because it's in a certain Heart of Bryant code, man, it's like, I can't build that. Got to be this hybrid residential commercial thing. So we want to, there's some tweaks that need to happen. I think that will help. That's kind of hurt some of the growth down here. Some of that Heart of Bryant code doesn't fit. Now, again, I think that's 10 years of hindsight.
And something else I think we should plan ahead on is having housing that would accommodate multiple generations and larger families. I think our families are gonna get bigger. And I noticed Fayetteville has some, multiple stories that looked old-fashioned, but it would suit that thing. We might wanna, don't stay on to just a family of 4 or 5, but allow large handicap and multiple generations.
And that's where those are the conversations that need to be had in that plan.
I think, you know, my mind is grappling with the utility of our role. It's like, how do we maximize the community engagement? And I'm thinking, like for Ward 2, how can we create a formal line of communication with my ward members to speak specifically about the impact of Bryant decision-making on our ward? That's one line of communication to be formalized. And then we have some way where we are visible to the community or to my ward, like, even if it's just a T-shirt, you know, have a question, Ward 2, ask me. And then that's the channel whereby I'm talking to, because in the city council meeting, we're talking about the city.
Yeah.
I need specific communication as a ward member to communicate with my ward. So I need like a formal channel with Ward 2 members, but then my Ward 2 people need to know to come to me. As I was looking at the back page, I was like, they don't know to come to me.
Right.
They have to have a way to know, for that official position, I talk to him. For my neighbor's position, I talk to Chris.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna get a different answer. It's not gonna be opinion, it's gonna be information, but it's gonna be coming from my next door neighbor.
Yeah.
And so So you can grapple with your ward, you know, with your council member with those questions. Like, let's hammer this out during our set time. So now I know now I know how to communicate with my neighbor.
Like me,
Town meetings around Shannon.
I wonder,
That gives
there's
you
gotta
other-
be a way we can do that.
That gives your other
I would
community
think
groups to
so.
talk, board meetings.
Yep.
We do ward meetings to go over your plan.
When when somebody's got a question about something like that, where do they usually go through? Report of concern or?
The email, info@cityoфbryant.com. Or message us on Facebook with a really mean.
Something to mull.
You know, yeah,
And
that would be
like I just
interesting.
showed Chris, you
Yeah.
know, for my area, things that were flooded because of the last big rainstorm.
Mhm.
The only reason why that is because I've talked to those people.
I
So
know.
that's why they're like, hey, I'm gonna shoot you a text, did you see what just happened? You know, like that's, I hadn't talked to them, and they never would've, nobody in the city would've got those pictures of vehicles being flooded in their neighborhood.
That's beautiful. To me, that's like the beautiful
Yeah, that's what we're
delivery of
at.
what our role is.
Do we run a social media campaign introducing this committee to?
But what social media account are you running on? Got like 5 for the city, I'm just saying.
Yeah, we do. All of them,
All of them.
yeah. Or it goes out on our water bill.
That's your pet peeve.
Oh, it,
But it really does, just the elevation of visibility should be simple, but it really is impactful. That little badge, like go to kind of with your badge on, you'd be surprised the difference. What's that?
Yeah.
You'll get 3 people to talk to you as opposed to none. And all of a sudden,
it's true.
You're hearing things.
That is true.
just wearing the badge changes your shopping experience at Walmart. Try it out.
Or the football, whatever, is that.
Yeah, you need to walk around with a
Let's, yeah, you know, it'd be interesting.
The
Let's do
tomatoes
some,
start flying.
let's do some research, find out who's doing that well. I mean, there's
Yeah.
gotta be, I don't know, thing comes to my mind is some sort of more official next door app. Some, you know, that they can,
God, there is an app out there that's a next door app, like, because I have it for my area. And they're like, oh, there's a dog loose. There's
Yeah.
there's that. I had to mute it because I was getting like 1 million messages a day.
Not Discord, is it?
I don't know what it was. It feels bad.
Reminds me of the ring stuff.
Yeah.
look, you know, we could talk to DNT, see what options we could have through the
Yeah.
website. That would be really interesting, as a way you could find that connection. The people who have questions, but aren't gonna call a council member, or don't wanna go through some official.
Get on next door and find out what they think about us. Real easy. You know, I mean, all the time, it's like, oh boy, they're talking about this. One, in a positive way, saw a comment about BAM
Yeah,
and said, well, we better do it quick before Benton does.
So, well, because that was one of my other questions. Like, what's our PR plan for that? Because there's a lot of people who's worried, you know, like, what are we doing with security for
Great
it?
question.
What are we gonna do with traffic for that area? Because it's already bad right there if it's during certain hours. Are we gonna put up stoplights?
It has been positive things being said, you know.
well,
we
it's,
mentioned-
you know, that'll, Highway 5 will be expanded.
Mhm.
There'll be 5 lanes before that gets finished, but the Chamber of Commerce is running the campaign. But if you guys are seeing, questions, what we can do as a city is we can't encourage yes or no votes, but we can give information. Here's information you need.
And that's basically like,
Yeah.
hey, this is our plan for security for the thing. This
Yeah.
is our plan for
Yeah.
this, if it gets approved, type
There's-
stuff.
yeah.
There's a lot of concern.
Education- And it's,
Yeah,
it's just, it's educational video.
yeah.
Yeah.
The thing of it is, we have planned for all those, the traffic, the security, the parking. Chamber's done an outstanding job, so.
No,
all
that's
those
coming.
questions be answered.
That's,
Just need to know all that.
yes, sir.
That's the whole Facebook thing, like, what Facebook page do you have to watch to get that educational video to answer those questions?
I think back to the last meeting.
That'll be all on We Are Bryant.
It'd be on the chamber.
Yeah. I was
Well,
thinking-
anything promoting the BAM will be on the chamber. We cannot, all we can say is, here's the basic information about the BAM. And that'll be on We Are Bryant and Bryant City Hall. Anything else, like vote yes for the ban, that all has to be filtered through the chamber. So,
I think as a committee though, we should have some input and let people know that it's not a new tax.
absolutely.
You know, somebody asked me, you know, well, I don't want my taxes to go up. Well, they're not.
And that's what I'm saying, just educational videos.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sway it one way or the other, but it's like, hey, if you're worried about taxes,
Right.
with this and this coming up, don't worry, there's no new taxes. Or
Right.
if you're worried about security or safety, don't worry. You know, the chief of police has this planned out already, and let him talk.
Yeah, let us help get the word out, I think is what we're trying to say.
No, yeah.
So, Chris, you remember maybe last year, we talked about having each ward having its own event, and to promote that, to let the people in the ward know we're having this event, and we'll answer questions.
Feel like I do.
Thing is, we don't have all the information solid where that we could have a successful event yet, because it needs to be spelled out better. Because if we're there, we're here for you, but we really can't answer your question. But we did talk about having, board, have some, you know, like,
Like a town hall.
This is actually, to me, you know, you bring up a great point. This, to me, is really like quite refreshing, like having this strategic plan in hand, because it's like a starting point to us becoming well-educated. And that's what prompted me to think,
Yeah.
if I had scheduled engagement with my Ward 2 members,
Mhm.
and we really thought strategically about where we live together and how to inform our fellow neighbors with this as a basis, we probably can get a lot done in terms of making sure they just know what's happening and how the decisions made on a larger scale affects Ward 2. I feel like that's the role. You know, so we come back together and put it all together.
I would want us to get a big voter turnout, and that's, I think, how we do it, is more personalized.
Well, that's, you know,
Town hall.
that's interesting, because if the idea of, you know, 'cause they get an email, everybody gets an email. We get the blanket email for the mayor's memorandum and the council recap video.
Mhm.
But if we knew that a specific thing was on the agenda that affects a certain ward, could we say, that's gonna go to that ward? Hey, Ward 2, this is going in front of DRC committee to be built in your ward. Did you know that? You know, how?
And maybe the information they shared may be a little bit more detailed for me, because I live there,
Right.
but because there's so much, it might overwhelm, but we all just got detailed reports on everything, but it's like, you know, BAM is gonna sit right there in the heart of Ward 3.
Yeah.
So the council member and that community engagement member that lives there, here's the deets. So when you get questions, you are educated.
And I think, honestly, social media should be pushing that out on that stuff. And it's like, hey, stormwater, this is really affecting Ward 1. You can feel like this pertains to you, this is our development. So that those people, instead of just skimming, they're like, oh, well, hey, I'm Ward 1. Like, I know that's me. They actually get in there and start looking at it more often.
Is it too much which you guys tell me, is it too much if we were to create Facebook groups?
Some people are not.
Yeah, some people aren't.
I wouldn't be looking for it.
Right.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm already following like 5 of them.
Right, yeah.
I think we can start grassroots and feel it out. Like, let's start with the basics. You know, just that small, test out, getting super good information on our wards, test out the badge.
Have
Test out
coffee,
communicating with our Ward 2 members. I mean, like you said, Ward 2. Figure out how to, you know, just build a line of communication with our council member and keep the information coming. That might go a long way.
Are you saying like for each of you in your ward, have your designated council member be in contact with you?
Yeah, I would really appreciate building with my Ward 2 council members and knowing what they know, tapping into their mind, seeing our ward from they're looking at it up there from their vantage point. So let's talk about it, because I want to be a part process.
We know, that's a really great point. I never thought about how are the different members of the committee and the council members connected? Do they know each other? Committee member, Ward Two. So if somebody does have a parks question, yeah.
I can pull that guy's phone number up, or gal's phone number up, say, hey, call this person.
What do you think?
Well, could we,
Have ward meetings.
It would be interesting if, to specifically go after that. We're gonna have every representative, committee, commission, council members in that ward, so everybody knows who they are, and
Do it
there's,
on a quarterly basis, because monthly might get a little bit full.
Yeah, you must.
That's better than what we do now.
Yeah,
Right.
that quarterly.
I don't know why, it's a great idea in plain sight. Like, why didn't we do this?
Because remember, we want to be a funnel, we want to be a conduit.
Yeah.
You want and not only that, you want the funnel not down, but also up.
Mhm.
Because you want to get that information up.
Yeah.
Now you know, the council knows, chamber knows, he knows, and now the people know. You know, so we want to educate them as best as possible in any way we can. Because now, and then the concerns about whatever we're doing, you know, and then we can really address those. Because
Right.
now, if I got his ear, I know he's listening, and they're listening, everybody's listening, we're all on the same page. Because that's where ideally we want to get to. Really, we may not, but again, we want to at least everybody to be, knowledgeable of what's going on. Because people want to know, they want transparency now. And then we want to be transparent. And everything that for us, I think for us as a committee, is we have to be engaged as far as knowing what's going on, because that's key. That's one key. We gotta know what's going on, because when you talk to these individuals, or you talk to somebody, you run up on somebody, you know, they're gonna test to see what you know, basically, or they give you some information, and it may be something that you need to relate back up the chain so that people can understand, and you say, oh, okay, well, man, I didn't know. They felt about that this way, or whatever, but it's not necessarily that we're gonna always be able to do something about how every individual affects, but if we get enough of that piled up, then, okay, now we got a problem, we need to address it.
Yeah. A good example is
We
if I
wanna
buy a
know.
house, if buying a house by Bryant High School is not the same as buying a house by Walmart. I don't have to ever deal with that traffic from 3 to 5. It's a whole different world of experience that people in that ward have to contend with and live with and understand every day.
Don't live by Chick-fil-A.
And so when new things are developing in the city, it's, okay, how does that touch us? Well, it's just gonna be traffic if you drive at 8. But if you live a little closer, you have to be concerned with volume, noise, traffic, and all that. So it just,
But, you know, and if somebody calls you about something they heard, like there's a dispensary coming to Ward.
Heard that.
Yeah.
That's big news.
exactly.
Hurricane.
4,
Like people
Ward
say.
4.
Being super educated in that ward is critical.
But like you would, they call you, you go, hey, here's who you need to talk to. You talk to so-and-so on the planning commission, or,
That's crazy. Everybody's heard of this dispensary, right? But like, no one's heard of anything else. I mean, none of this, but they know
they know
about the
there's a
dispensary.
dispensary
Yeah.
coming.
That's the fault of Facebook, only one thing gets it.
So, and maybe that I don't know, it's just your committee. It might be interesting that these things are hosted by community engagement committee. That there's invitations sent to the other committee members, commission members, council members, hey, we'd like to invite you to this. This is a chance where we're gonna invite the public to get to know their representatives that aren't just elected. They're also appointed by council. And so even if nobody shows up, you're getting to know each other. Because I don't know how many council members.
It's the only way to make people believe that the government's for them.
Yeah.
Who was at the end of the last meeting when it was discussed? Because at some point in the past, we talked about people being, 2 people and visiting with businesses, 2 people visiting with, churches, 2 people visiting with the schools. And then it kind of got, and I wish that Christina was here.
I did check my email. Apparently I received an email from her around 4 that I did not see.
Yeah, mercy.
She accidentally poisoned herself with she's okay. Accidentally poisoned herself with cleaning supplies. So she was at the ER getting checked out. But she's okay. She just wanted to let us know that she was
for
okay.
this, so.
Well, I can be the guinea pig, I can test out, reaching out to Ward Two.
It's like, hey, okay.
Reaching out to the Ward Two, council members and just post the idea in the email, like, what do y'all think about
Great
it?
idea.
Either that or me or the mayor could do an introductory email and just loop, say, everybody from Ward One, all the council, wastewater, community engagement, everybody in one email. So we can do introductions there and say like, Renee is on community engagement ward. I don't know everybody's wards. But we could do that and then everybody would have each other's emails and phone numbers.
Yeah, what I like about that is it can take on its own identity
Mhm.
and its own style.
I agree.
It doesn't have to be the same.
It doesn't. That's right. Go
Good
run
man.
with it. Yeah.
So, what I'm worried about is us not having clear information, that, very basic.
Yeah.
And that was what came out at the end of that last meeting,
Mhm.
was instead of two people going to the churches or two people going, whatever, that two people, or I don't know, however many departments we have for the city, but one of our committee go sit with Joy, get her to help us understand the budget. And then we get it in a paragraph, like.
Renee, I can promise you, if you guys, if we introduce this idea and you run with it, okay, and you invite in Ward Two, police chief, the fire chief, somebody from finance, the mayor, hey, we're doing this on this date, they will all show up because this team wants to communicate. Like they will, but they're, it's better this way because it's not, a mayor thing or it's a community engagement committee's gonna have these people at this place and this time, and you're invited to come and ask questions, and there's gonna be department heads there.
And it's
They'll be
being
all over that.
said, like, starting point tool. I was just thinking back when we do have some kind of paperwork, something, where, remember at the Christmas one?
Yeah.
And that we have that available for people to sit there and, this is good, but a lot of people don't understand why they pay the $15.
Yeah.
But they just want their water bill to be $15 less.
We could do frequently FAQ handout.
This is
Water bill breakdown.
we're paying for.
And that could be, like, for instance, like the very first, even if just 5 people come, the very first, I'm thinking about like in Ward Two, in my neighborhood, you got that little canopy out there. It's nice, the weather's changing. So it could be just information event for Ward Two, bring your questions. I won't have answers, it just, bring me all that. And my job, because if my
Right.
Ward Two council members are there with me, we'll work on a fact sheet to bring back to you when we do the next one.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
For Ward Two, specific to Ward Two. We're not gonna tackle everything, because our job is to make sense of your questions and how they impact Ward Two. And like in our ward, we might do coffee shop, because that's what,
Yeah,
the 10 people that keep coming, that's how we vibe.
right, yeah.
And it can kind of just take on its own identity that way.
There are no coffee shops in Ward One.
Well, I guess talk to the mayor and, or, no, not the,
Somebody's maybe gonna be able to spend.
chamber, yeah.
Just a matter of time.
It's coming, man. Voters and everybody else, I think it's coming.
I
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
you're gonna get a lot of support from the staff,
Mhm.
that you've got residents who are working hard to engage other residents. It's not a thing the mayor told you need to be, not that they act that way, they're great, it's just, that's a different ethos,
Mhm.
right? It's, I don't know.
It's more fun than when Jordan says, write a director's report.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great idea. So,
Yeah, I like that.
do you guys want me?
Well, I just wrote a note to myself to host a Ward One meet and greet, that's what I put, just host it, so.
And
Together and.
we
we'll
wanna, like,
talk
me
about
and
it.
him wanna know about the, like, if we would love to be
I
at
don't have to
these.
be there, but
I would love to be at them.
If we do something like this, I like to include Yesenia in, because she is the
Right.
president. Madam President. And make sure we include her on this, and I think, include her on this, and then let's talk about it and see where it goes. And then, like I said, if we do decide to do something like this, then the information that we can bring back, you know, it could be pivotal to what's going on, whatever the case is. And like I said, the conduit, the information flows up, then we just have to be very intentional about pushing the information back out. And then we as a committee, we have to be educated, and we have to be able to push the information out, because they're gonna look to you for this information, especially if we put ourselves in those spaces. They're gonna look, well, remember, what did she say she wanted us to do, is to get that information, like Renee was talking about, sit with those people, get that information, so you know what's going on, so you can educate them when it comes to that. Like if you have a hosted party, or whatever, you at the parks, or wherever you at, and you're doing this thing, or you knocking on doors in your ward, or whatever the case is, you know, if you ask them just for their input, what if they ask you a question? Well, here, who's my ward, who's my council member? You may need to have this information. Hey, I don't know a person, but hey, here's this guy right here. But opportunity for us to get to know those people, I think, would be a good thing. And then, okay, how can we, as a team, how can we impact better? Because that's what it's all about for us. Because we all want to see is why we're here.
It might be good to have a meeting in March and another one April.
Nothing is a waste. Imagine, I mean, 5 people may come every time, but imagine if one day we all bring our little 5s together. We got a group of 20, 30, and grassroots.
Well, that 5, those 5 are talking to other people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Exactly.
What, no, I think at the very least, we don't have to do anything official. We'll float this out there. This was,
Yep.
this conversation was had. Here's everybody's contact info.
Mm.
I've heard that some folks are already gonna plan something, so just be ready, and whatever you need. And that's another thing. If you please, you always reach out to me if you hear something, you got questions about it, like even that dispensary. Just call me or email me. Say, Chris, I got a question about this. Tell me I will tell you everything I know. I'll tell you every detail I have.
It won't take long.
Exactly. A lot of times, or I'll say, hey, you can call Tim. Or I'll say, let me get back to you. I gotta call somebody. But if there's something you need to know about, just let me know. I'll give you all the details. And so would anybody else on my team. I mean, there's nothing, we got nothing we're trying to, it's just, man, there's a lot to communicate. All right, well, I took up most of
I mean,
your
we
time.
really
I'm
talked
sorry.
about the other 2 items on the agenda, so.
Oh, okay.
Those 2 things.
And I agree, I'd rather have Yesenia here when we actually divvy those out, but I think this ward idea is probably the best idea you've had or you've agreed with so far.
Madam President.
Mercy.
Thank you, guys. Do what?
Very rarely. We had coffee with the mayor every Saturday.
Absolutely. Where'd you have that?
Sometimes we had it here, sometimes we had it at the park.
You had over at CD's, you had to be there every Saturday.
Well,
That's Ward 2. Yeah, that's Ward 2. I can't go over there.
What?
anybody got anything else before we,
That's good for
oh, Duck Derby.
Oh, I got a lot of tickets, if anybody wants to buy some.
That, and I guess next meeting we'll figure out what we wanna
Mine's
do
up.
at the event, with our booth, what we want there, who's gonna work the shifts.
That's good.
That'll be the number one thing. That'll be
1 for 5 or 3?
our next meeting.
That's in May, right?
Duck Derby is in May.
Well, that'll be good, that'll be the first thing next month.
But your Chase Bryant is in April.
First thing.
And I don't have, they haven't given any details about that, so I don't know if there'll be,
That's the chamber, though,
Yeah.
right?
mm, I don't know if they'll have booths or
Work calendar.
anything.
I know what it is.
Hey, man.
That's what it's like.
Man, yours looks fun.
You know what it is, sports like.
When is that dirty?
Look at May.
Oh,
May?
May, the first Saturday in May,
What's this May thing?
May 3rd.
I was close.
yep, right there.
Won't be here.
So I'll put that to be the first thing we discuss at March's
Okay.
meeting. Does anybody have anything else? I'll entertain a
Great
motion
stuff,
to
guys.
adjourn.
Second.
Great conversation.
Thanks for your,